Across the church in America today, a new movement is rising, where faith leads finance and clarity drives impact. I'm Roger Aguinaldo, the founder of the Catholic Faith Investors Summit and the Catholic FI Alliance, a membership community of investors focused on faith-based investing aligned with Catholic social teaching. Join the leaders transforming stewardship into mission. This is where faithful investing begins and the future of Catholic investment takes shape. This was a fireside chat conversation on Mensuram Bonum with His Eminence Cardinal Peter Turkson. I'm in conversation with him, Roger Aguinaldo, from Pray Investment Management. Now, Cardinal, you wanted to start with a little bit of reflection today based upon today's gospel.
So, with you, Bishop, just as we listen to the gospel this morning, a thought occurred to me, which I thought on the lies, our meeting here and our discussion and everything that we intend to do here, that I just wanted to share for whatever merit it may have. You know, it's that there are two passages in scriptures in the Gospels where Jesus points out to the fact that challenges that we do have sometimes in accepting or embracing new situations come not from the outside, but from within us. One of those episodes was about what defiles a person. And Jesus says, it's not what you touch outside that defiles you, but it's something that comes from within. The second one is what we heard this morning. So the gospel talked about the disciples wondering or talking about who was the greatest among them. That actually happened when Jesus was leading the disciples toward Jerusalem and trying to explain to them that they were going to Jerusalem and how he was going to be handed over and treated and all of that. But then the disciples understood nothing of the explanation or the teaching he was trying to give them. And then later on, there was this drop or hint about what they were really discussing. So while Jesus was busy trying to explain what lay ahead of him in Jerusalem, the disciples could not grasp it because they were worried about something else. They were worried about who was the greatest among them, and that was actually the discussion. So the discussion about who was the greatest among them prevented them from understanding what Jesus was trying to teach and invite them to understand and embrace. And so this is the second episode of something from within the disciples which became an obstacle for them to understand and appreciate the teaching of Jesus. And I thought I'd draw attention to that because the discussions that we're going to be having today can have a similar character. We'll be listening to an invitation to look at things and see things differently. And of course, like the case of the apostles, what may be going on within us or real concern can also become an obstacle to this invitation to see things newly, to see things in a different perspective and all of that. So that's just what I thought and I'll share with you. So the disciples give us a clue. Sometimes what goes on, that what's from within our heart prevents us from appreciating, understanding the new things that we've been taught or which Jesus, in that case, was teaching. And in the case of the disciples, who was really great among us. And their discussion about greatness prevented them from understanding what Jesus was trying to teach. So this morning, I think our meeting here and all the discussions and the sessions would have will be an attempt to present something new, unusual, or probably whatever to us. And I just point to this because we may not overlook the fact that something from within us can always be an obstacle, a challenge, a problem, to an invitation to embrace some newness, some innovative way of doing things. And that's just what I wanted to share.
Well, thank you, Cardinal. So given that this is the guardian angels, right? So we're Mensuram Bonum, okay? This is what we're here to talk about today, and it's a document, now in hard copy, everyone. Now in hard copy, right? And you have a...
And if you go to the website, you'll find it like this.
That you have to print out. Well, we printed it out for you, okay? We had Paulus Press to provide copies for us today. So what should we take out of this, for us as institutional investors, those that manage diocesan money? Why this? The USCCB has their guidelines. What's the importance of Mensuram Bonum?
So this is part of a series of initiatives that we undertook in the Vatican from our office. I was invited in 2010 by Pope Benedict XVI to the Vatican to help out. And the office I was put in charge of used to be called the Dicastery for Justice and Peace. The name was Justice and Peace, but that title embraced all kinds of social concerns, which were born out of the Second Vatican Council. At the Second Vatican Council, there was a recognition of several areas where the church was not involved in. And so after the council, the decision was to create offices to deal with these other areas where the church hitherto had not been involved in. Those were social issues, relationship with non-Christian religions, even relationship with other Christian religions, all of those. So these offices were created. So Justice and Peace was an office that was created to pursue what Rerum Novarum had begun, the church's social teaching, and within that, all other concerns, concerns of the church for society and all of that. Because the basic principle that it came out with was that there's no way that the church can show its solidarity with humanity than be interested in all the challenges and problems which humanity was going through and facing. And so it was an invitation to dialogue between the church and every other social condition that existed. And for us then, one of these was then Justice and Peace, to look at all of this. So we started looking at social issues all around us. We, with Mark Carney, who's now in Canada as a prime minister, in those days he was in charge of the Bank of England. Okay, so he came with a group of bankers, and with them we were talking about how can banking be done for common good. So that was the discussion. Then from that, we met mining companies. Then we met oil and gas companies, and so on. It was to engage them, and as I said last night, our principle was not to divest because we found something unacceptable or, one may say, even criminal. Ours was always to engage in dialogue, help people to see things differently than they used to seeing. So that was our basic principle. It was always to engage in dialogue. In the case of oil and gas, we knew that congregations here were divesting from oil and gas companies because they were polluting and all of that. And we said, no, the thing to do is not to divest. The thing to do is rather to engage. And it's actually true that we had people, not even necessarily Catholics and all of that, began to seriously sit down and attend university to learn about the church's social thought. What were these bundle of principles that we kept referring to? Dignity, common good, subsidiarity, all of those things. So Mensuram Bonum falls into this. And it was preceded immediately by a small document that we did called The Vocation of the Business Leader. This is a small booklet that several business schools here in the United States use, with their students. The vocational business leader was inspired by one of the encyclicals of Pope Benedict about Caritas in Veritate, charity in truth. And so based on that, we had meetings with the Ryan Institute, Social Institute in Southern California. And so we came out with this document whose objective was to invite business people to bring their faith into their business and not to leave their faith at the doorsteps, but to bring it into their business, have their faith influence their business options and different policies and all of that.
Yeah, Your Eminence, sorry to interrupt, but
Yes.
this is a very important. Cardinal Turkson took a good amount of his time to do a podcast regarding the vocation of the business leader. And what it's asking us to do is each and every one of us as sort of stewards of capital, whether it's be diocese or Catholic institutional money, to see our jobs.
Everybody has a vocation.
Yeah.
So first thing is that traditionally we've always understood vocation as people wanting to become priests, or people want to become nuns, or people want to go into a seminary. That's why we talk about people having vocation. But that's not true. That's too limiting. Everybody has a vocation, to the extent that everybody is invited to align their conduct and everything with the will of God. That's what vocation is. And in that sense, it's not those who want to become priests and nuns and whatever who have vocation. Everybody is invited to align their conduct with God's will. Yeah. So that's a basic fundamental vocation of all of humanity, of all of us. In that sense, all of us have a vocation. Yeah. So when we talk about vocation of the business leader, then the focus was on business leaders, inviting them to recognize that in their business and whatever they do, they also need to seek to align their business, whatever, to God's will. And that led us to at least present three things. So business leaders, we said, aim at doing or producing good work. And good work means just work that is really good. Work without anything, prostitution, whatever, anything that is questionable. And aim at producing good goods. Yep. The goods produced must always be truly good. And then thirdly, aim at producing good wealth. Wealth that is good and that's equitably shared within all who are responsible for producing the good and doing the work. So these were three things that we concluded to in that literature. And shortly after that, the Vatican's Office for Doctrine of Faith also came out with a small document, ecumenic. So about, again, inviting to moral conduct of managing finances, or managing monies and stuff like that. And then the director of the Vatican Bank or financial institution came to draw attention to the fact that the Vatican doesn't appear to have a consistent criteria for investment.
For its own money, right?
Yeah, for its own, because he was the head of the Vatican Bank. Yeah. And so invited us to consider developing some instrument like that. So that's what got us started. Yeah. And to start, we invited already those involved in this. So we had somebody from the U.S. conference. Father Seamus Finn was there from day one, part of this. Then we invited somebody from Notre Dame, somebody from the Austrian Bishops' Conference, German Bishops' Conference, and all of that together. So these were people who were already involved in developing investment criteria for bishops' conferences. And with them, we started this. The inspiration, however, to go in the direction of religion came from our my participation in a conference in Zug. All of you investors probably know the name Zug in Switzerland. Zug is where big financial investors meet almost every year. So we were there, and a group of religious leaders there thought that we developed something of our own. That's where we recognized that the Muslims already have a kind of a Sharia investment system. But the Christians didn't have anything. So that was the push and the drive for us also to develop something, a Christian, kind of investment criteria based, again, not on the Quran, but on scriptures and everything that we have. So the basic principle, the pillars supporting Mensuram Bonum is our faith, so the Bible, which we kind of synthesize in the creed that we recite, so I believe in God the Father, Creator, Jesus Christ, Word of God, and all of those. And so these were the basic principles we used, supported by the church's social teaching or church's social thought. The principles of dignity, common good, subsidiarity, solidarity, subsidiarity, and all that. So these were the two things we used to provide the guidance for the ensuing principles that were discussed in Mensuram Bonum. So that's where we came from. That's where
thanks for that origin story, because I think it's very important that this is organic, right? This is not an encyclical, right? It's not an encyclical, right? So it's not coming from on high, right? Well, but it does come from on high, right? It's really the Holy Spirit bringing this together. And it's only about 2.5 years old, probably, right now, since when you published it, right?
2022.
2022, about 3 years. So this is where, sort of spreading the word on Mensuram Bonum. But I wanted to come back to the point of if we look at our role, all of us here as money managers, investment managers, asset managers, dioceses, CFOs, CIOs, for our Catholic institutional investment as a vocation, our role as a vocation, our jobs as a vocation. It's very powerful, very, very powerful.
So that's it. So this is not the end of the line.
Right. Okay.
So this was thrown out to actually invite reactions, to invite people looking at it. If it's already, I think. Methodist. I got some notes from our Methodist colleague there. So it's meant out, and we ourselves have engaged 2 researchers to take Mensuram Bonum and collect all existing faith investment criteria of Episcopal conferences, study them together, and next year on the 20th and 21st of May, they're supposed to present their findings in the Pontifical Academy. So for us to learn where are the shortcomings of the Episcopal things, where are the shortcomings of Mensuram Bonum, how to cope. So it's still work in progress, if you want. And we would greatly appreciate any input or feedback, whatever that from, because you are the ones, doing the business. We from behind, we observe what is happening and think that we can be of help supplying some principles. But you the ones to apply and make. So are our principle suggestions realistic? Can they really be worked with? So that kind of reaction we need from you. Yeah. And in the light of that, revisit Mensuram Bonum, see how well we can make a progress. Because at the end of the day, we wish if we have some common universal metrics for all church institutions and bishops' conferences. So that's what we.
I think that's very insightful that you chose that. This is an invitation
to work.
And this is a living.
Some people call it synodal process.
Yes. So, synodal process here.
So we know what artificial intelligence has been able to achieve so far, but nobody can predict what the end of the use and application of artificial intelligence would even mean. Initially, we were thinking about artificial intelligence just in the process, the speed of calculation, the speed of processing data and producing. It's no more that limited to that. The last time I got one. So one of the big workers of the one gentleman came to my office and then showed me that even a lot of the guys who work and process data do not really know what the data they're processing is meant for, is meant to do. The only 1 or 2 out there who create the models. And it is those who create the models who kind of shape again what the data processing does. So he showed me on his computer 3 models and how 2 models came together to attack the 3rd model. And that was an illustration of how close this was attaining consciousness or being able to identify an enemy or being able to identify a threat and a decision to, so that things have gone far, and we're still not at the end. So artificial intelligence, Pope Francis would say, is something that is exciting for humanity in the opportunities that it offers for knowledge, processing data, and all. But there is also a threat, which of great concern to humanity as to where it's all taking us. So while we appreciate the contributions of this technology to work and all of that, it's almost like the crane that enables us to lift weights that human energy can lift. And so for that, we're grateful. But again, for what it can also do by way of making human beings redundant, whatever, and even right now, simulation. I've seen 2 sites where Pope Leo is presented as having deleted or having canceled 10 traditional celebrations in the church. Okay, first time I saw it, I said, this cannot be real. So following that, I go to the office and find out. So one, Pope Leo is supposed to have canceled Eucharistic processions. Okay? Because he says you must worship God with the heart and not display, the Eucharist on the street. So he's supposed to have outlawed that. He's supposed to have done away with indulgences. Okay? He's supposed to have done. So, and these are 10 of them, which are online and presented with the voice of Pope Leo. So the simulation capacity of artificial intelligence becomes a thing of concern. I myself, from an operator from MIT, coming for one of these events, so has me, my face, my voice, and all of that, saying the opposite of what I have said, presenting louder to see. So in that sense, there's room for concern. And then so the wish is that there would be some regulatory body or something that would help do some of these things. So I know that there is a group working on this seriously, and Pope Leo may well be coming out also with his own, statement on artificial intelligence. But I know that Francis did 3 things when he went to Puglia at the meeting of the G7. He talked about artificial intelligence, its capacity, but also concerns that they raise and all of that. So it will mean that in our investment criteria, especially the exclusionary section, we would probably have to say something about AI and what it cannot, some applications of AI which may not be tolerable. Okay. Concern now in Italy is that the use of AI is making people cognitively deficient. That they don't think enough, they don't process enough, and all of that. So it's all something that you can do out there. So that concern is already showing up in Italy. Okay, about students who are kind of deficient in the application, the use of their own cognitive powers and all of that. So there will certainly be a formulation of some exclusionary criteria from this regard.
Yeah, so I think we almost are about out of time, but I just regarding the AI with the deep fakes, we had a new saint, Carlo Acutis, and he's the saint of the internet, they say, and he might be the saint of social media as well as AI. So one of the things that Pope Leo said is that these tools of social media, the internet, can also be used for good, right? So the genie's out of the bottle regarding deep fakes, but I think AI can be utilized for the good, and I think it's upon all of us to do that.
I think one can probably just do a quick answer, sum it all up. In the words of Pope Francis, that says that this industry, financial whatever type of thing, must serve the human person, and not the human person be reduced to serve any of these financial engagements or enterprises and stuff like that. So for us in doing this, the primacy would be the human person. Its common good, its integral development is the core value or core objective that we aim at. And we think that in the light of that, everything that creates a deficiency in integral human development is something that is worth looking at. Okay, but so ideally, everything that must help to enhance the dignity of the human person, his well-being and all. That for us would be if you were the core central metric, the human person, his well-being and integral development.
Well, that's a good segue potentially into our next session, our fireside chat on rerum novarum and the dignity of the human being. Any final thoughts, Your Eminence?
Not rerum
novarum. We only had one fireside chat slotted for you, so.
Okay, sure, no, that's fine. That's okay. Good. That's good. Because to have started rerum novarum will be another. it's a whole other chapter. No, I think it would be also fair on myself to express great appreciation for all of you participants in this event, for the time that you're making, to be here, to want to discuss, and I look forward essentially to the contributions that can come from this group. Through our study and research into whatever. So I'll gladly pass on the contribution from here to the two researchers that we have engaged who are working out of Paris to comparing Mensuram Bonum with other existing investment criteria to be able to indicate to us where we overstate things, where we understate things, where we misrepresent, all of that things is something that we eagerly look forward to. And in that sense, I would appreciate all observation and comments that can come so the synodal process become complete.
Great. Please give a hand for Cardinal Turkson. This year's summit proved what's possible when faith shapes investment. In the next year, we go further, uniting more Catholic leaders ready to invest with purpose, integrity, and grace. Join us in New York City, September 16th and 17th, 2026. Shape the legacy, live the calling. Visit our website for the Catholic FI Alliance at catholicfi.com to learn more.